This is the New York City FC Pregame Live. Tonight, New York City head back on the road to take on Atlanta United. And now, here are your hosts, Glenn Crooks and Matty Lawrence.
Indeed, the New York City Football Club unbeaten in 10 straight matches against United, a streak that included one of the most pivotal moments in club history when Goody Torrance scored a late free kick equalizer right here at Mercedes Benz Stadium, right to the right of the screen there in that goal, as New York City then went on to the playoffs and then on to win their first MLS Cup. Interesting story. New York City coach Ronnie Deila at the time wins an MLS Cup. Deila is in the building again today, this time as the head coach of Atlanta United. How did that happen? Well, welcome, everybody. I'm Glenn Crooks. Here's Matty Lawrence. What he does is he'll be putting a tux on for the actual commentary. But this, welcome,
I dressed down for a pre-game live.
Well, here in Hot Atlanta, we can,
I was preparing for the game. I was doing my crossword back there before we got started.
Nice,
Everything's good and underway. We said hello to Ronnie down on the field a little bit earlier.
We did. So we mentioned Ronnie. We got a chance to see him kind of in separate little sections. You and Roberto got him. Roberto Abramowitz on our Spanish side, and then I saw him on the way through a little bit as they do a little march through the supporters in what's called the Delta Club. They've got a Delta Club at Yankee Stadium. They've got one here at Mercedes Benz. So wonderful to chat with Ronnie for a bit. He's very happy here. He lives in Buckhead, which, if you know this area, it's a very cool place to live. His family is going to join him soon. They're not here yet, but I think he said next week.
Yeah, when the family come, they probably won't be in Buckhead. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure. I wasn't sure how that was going to roll.
It's a vibrant part of the city. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, I think so. So he seemed happy to be here. He's with Garth Lagerwey, Chris Henderson. Professionally, he's very happy, and he was always good to us.
Yes,
and I know the supporters loved him.
Yeah.
Of course, I think one of the more interesting Ronnie Deila moments is when he went to Jack Dempsey's, and I just learned moments earlier that one of Matty's friends was there, but he went to Jack Dempsey's, which is a Celtic supporters club, and he's the former Celtic coach. So he put his kit on. He had this jersey on that all a lot of the supporters had signed because he was adored there. Won 3 trophies while he was with Celtic, and so he's watching the Old Firm against Rangers at Jack Dempsey's, having pints with the supporters.
At whatever time it was, 7 a.m. or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Not a game day.
Not a game day. No.
It was not a game day. But
he was lovely to us, and obviously was held in high regard because he won MLS Cup. But I think it's more than that. I think he transcended just being a good coach and a good manager for NYCFC. He seemed to be. He is a very good human being. He's very personable, affable, and a decent drinker as well, if anybody at Jack Dempsey's remembers. So he's a good all-round egg.
Yeah, well, I mean, he can hang with the supporters, which sometimes not every coach can do that. No, it's not easy, especially if it's not going well.
And especially a place as vociferous as Glasgow. I know Jack Dempsey's obviously in New York City, but the Scots fans are pretty vocal and hard and driven in Glaswegian predominantly. So it's if you can hang with them, you're doing okay.
All right. Now, the reason I was a little delayed in meeting Ronnie is one of my former players. Now, this is going to show, I guess, some of the age. 1983 was the very first team I coached seriously. It was a high school team. It was at my scholastic alma mater, Ridge High in Basking Ridge. And one of my players from that first team, Danielle DeMott, she's now Danielle Hoffer, her husband, was with her in the Delta Club, and so I got a chance to meet up with her. They live here in Atlanta now, so that was fun because and we've stayed in contact throughout the years, and she helped start the program, which I've always respected all the players from that team because we went from very little and had to grow it from there. Now, the other thing is, as you know, Matty, and maybe some viewers, listeners know, is that I went to university not far from here, the University of Georgia, not Georgia Tech, the University of Georgia.
Don't make that mistake.
It's about 60 miles away in Athens, Georgia, great college town. And I've remained in contact with some of my friends from the university, where I made a lot of friends at WUOG, which is the campus radio station. So last night, a few of us got together, and there they are. Now, haven't we aged well? I mean, look at that.
You've aged well. The other five have aged well.
So there's Morgan on the left, then Jan, then me, Julie, Sue, and Hondo, Neil. Neil's part of the University of Georgia football broadcast pre and post game show, I think, and so it was a wonderful night. The best part was sharing stories about me that I didn't remember. So,
and they would have just on some last night.
No, everything was cool last night. So if any of them are watching, I had so much fun, and I thank everybody for taking the time to make it happen. So we're in Atlanta once a year, so we're going to make it an annual event. All right, on to the football, the soccer there, Mr. Matty Lawrence. Yeah. Actually, there have been 3 games already played, so New York City supporters will enjoy the result of one of these games as New England. Carlos Heel scored 2 goals. The Red Bulls only had 1, 2-1 up at Gillette. It's the first 2 goals scored by New England this year in Game 6, with the exception, well, they got a little help from Thiago Martins in
but still not a goal from open play from themselves. Because one was a penalty and one was a direct free kick. So they're still yet to score a goal themselves in open play.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
So they still have some work to do. But they did get their first win of the year, so they're out of that winless group of teams at the bottom of the MLS standings. Also, Toronto and Vancouver played to a 0-0 draw. As of the 70-minute mark, Toronto still had not had a shot on target. I'm not sure how that ended up. And Colorado at home beat Charlotte 2-0. So that's an important result for those who live in the Eastern Conference. So supporters for New York City, I think they can be pretty happy with what happened here over the first 3 games. On
absolutely. Results went well for NYCFC. We know it's still very early on in the season, but it's better for the teams around us and in the Eastern Conference to be dropping points. I think Toronto, as you said, were quite lucky to get 0. They nearly got a minus score in that game. I think eventually they had 2, possibly 3 shots on target. I think it was something like 0.5 expected goals for them. And that's them playing at home. That's them playing with their 2-star men, Bernadeschi and Insigne.
Yeah.
And it's just a troubled football club. It doesn't matter which players go in there, which coaches go in there. It's a troubled football club because the results prove that. I don't know anything that's going on there, but the results prove that it's suffering massively.
That's Atlanta United that's on the field warming up right now. And it's been a long time since they've defeated the New York City Football Club. They've tied the last 4 matches, these 2, including last year, a 1-1 draw and a 2-2 draw. The 2-2 game here at Mercedes, the 1-1 game at Citi Field. And it's really been interesting, this takeover, Ronnie Dyler for Atlanta United and Pascal Janssen for New York City FC. So, Matty, you've got 2 teams that you'd have to say, and you could say, I think, with clarity, that are still trying to figure their coaches out.
Yeah. The coaches are trying to figure out their players, and the players are trying to figure out their coaches. And, I'm not just contradicting what you said. That's exactly what's happening. They're feeling each other out. I think both sets of players have to have massive respect for their coaches because of what's gone before them. But, it hasn't quite fallen into place. For Ronnie Dyler, he's got a much better set of players and he's got a much bigger squad of players. Yeah. So it should be, you'd have thought, easier for him to mould them into a good team unit. For Pascal Janssen, you only need to look down at the bench, and the fact that there is only 8 on the bench, and there's a 16-year-old on the bench who's only just turned 16. There's 2 goalkeepers on the bench. It's much, much harder for Pascal Janssen when he hasn't, as of yet, been provided with the correct pieces to mould a good MLS team. It's been good so far.
Yep,
for what he's been given,
Yeah.
He has been relatively successful, and especially when you think they should have, NYCFC should have won that first game against Miami. It should be much better. They should have beaten Miami, and they should have drawn with LAFC. They still haven't played particularly well. It hasn't totally gelled. And let's be honest, in the last game, they hardly touched the ball.
Well, it was no shots on target, and So I presented that with Pascal Janssen on the pregame show. Coming up, our live commentary begins with the pregame show on the New York City FC Network. That's at 7:15 Eastern. It's about an 11-minute conversation with Pascal. We're going to play a couple of clips here. So, I brought that up, the poor attack. It was just there was a lot of defending. Let's just put it that way. And here's what the coach had to say. Let me make sure I've got the volume up.
That's the outcome of a game where you don't have the quality, or you don't bring enough quality in possession, which was very strange to see for me going into the 11th game being in charge. I haven't experienced that before. I had one game in Europe, in Holland, that I remember. We also had, I think it was only 2 box entries over the game, and that was also against an opponent who was way better than us that day. But what was lacking in this game back on Saturday in Columbus, a huge part was losing Keaton within the half an hour in our way of playing, but also looking for the moments to go forward and try to get into the box of the opponent was something I didn't see with my team. The front line wasn't protective of the ball. We couldn't move up as a team. So that makes it very hard to get forward, but also the easy loss of possession in this game was way off. And those things combined create a situation that we experienced on Saturday.
Specifically about Parks, his presentation in the midfield. So what are some of the things that you missed in particular? Is it just the simple fact of keeping the ball in a better way?
Yeah, that's one of the aspects. On the other hand, when he left the pitch, unfortunately, we were not able to play through our midfield anymore. So if it's lack of bravery, or maybe a little fear, or just not ready enough to get the balls into midfield, it's always a two-way stream, because they need to be provided from the back four in order to get those balls in midfield. But you also have to be able to show yourself and be very brave to get the ball. If there's too much pressure in midfield, you look for your attackers and you look for another way to support the attacking line and get midfield players on the ball. But none of the things I just described were at a certain level where we could be satisfied with.
All right, midfield. Oftentimes it's about the midfield with Pascal Janssen. Keaton Parks, he was out at about the half-hour mark. What we learned, and I had learned in preseason, but I wasn't sure how much of an issue it might be, but Keaton Parks in the last game at Coachella Valley, which was the last preseason game, he left that game early, and it was a foot injury. And indeed, he's been nursing this foot injury now throughout the course of the season. All I can tell you is on Thursday, he was sharp in practice, moving well. He's in the 11 tonight, as you can see. If you're watching this, you can see the starting 11 and the bench being scrolled here in the lower third of the screen. And it'll be Parks and Johnny Shore and Justin Hack making this start in place of Burke Risa at left central defense. So, again, the faith in Johnny Shore. And is it maybe that Johnny Shore and Keaton Parks, that combination, can get on the ball more frequently and more effectively?
I think that both Parks and Shaw are much more confident on the ball. I think the word you used, faith, I think it shows great faith from the manager in somebody as young as Johnny Shaw. He's played a lot of minutes for somebody so young. It's not only the physicality, it's the mental part of the game and remaining focused. But he does look comfortable on the ball. He does look confident. Justin Hack isn't that player. Justin Hack's more of a destroyer, somebody who's going to cut out balls into the front man, or somebody who's going to have a bit of bite in the middle of the park. And I don't think that's what Pascal Janssen wants as much. I think he wants his sixes, and it looks as though he's going to play with a twin six to truly get on the ball. It isn't Justin Hack, but I think Justin Hack has done enough to stay in the team. I think over the last 2 seasons, I know last season isn't relevant to this manager, to Pascal Janssen. I'm just doing the service, or Justin Hack, this good service of saying how good he's been, and he deserves to be in the team today. I think he's probably better as a holding six, but maybe not in this team or in the structure or how Pascal Janssen wants his sixes to play.
And then maybe at central defense, does he rate Hack a better defender than Risa? And the point there is that Emmanuel Latelap will start at striker. He has scored 4 of the 5 goals for Atlanta United this year. Now they have 6 goals, but they've got an own goal. as well as we discussed with New England. So of their 5 goals that the team has scored, they've actually scored. Latte Lap has 4 of those. So he's been impressive. A $22 million reported signing, which is the largest contract in Major League Soccer history, I think.
Yeah.
And so the expectation is he needs to produce, and he has.
He does have to. Let's not forget that 2 of his goals came in the first game in the only win for Atlanta United against Montreal, who were terrible and who have since sacked their manager. So 2 of his 4 did come in that first game. He's only got 2 since then. But I've just looked down at his production level. 5 games played, 5 games started, 409 minutes in the 4 goals that you said. He's only had 12 shots in those 5 games.
Right. 9 on goal, right?
on target and 4 hit the back of the net. That's wonderful production in terms of if the boy shoots, more often than not it's hitting the target. And if it hits the target, more often than not it's hitting the back of the net.
Yeah.
So he knows where it is. And look, there's only one reason he came to Atlanta United, and it's not because he wanted to play on plastic here. He came to Atlanta United for money. Because if it was all about the quality of football, he would have stayed at Middlesbrough and he would have tried to get into the Premier League. They're in the playoff positions. They're fighting to get into the Premier League. This was all about money. So how much drive does he have? Now he has all that money to succeed on the pitch. And that will only be shown at the end of the 34 games. He's a wonderful goal scorer at the Championship level in England. Whether he could have done it in the Premier League, who knows? And maybe that's him, maybe not quite copping out, but it's such a good offer here, such a good deal, that not only could Middlesbrough not turn it down, they got rid of their one true chance of getting into the Premier League. They sold him mid-season. And also, the boy himself didn't turn it down because he's here for the money. And you can't blame anybody. It's a very short career. It could end today. It could have ended yesterday.
That's right.
So I'm not begrudging him taking the money. I'm just saying the only reason he's come here is for that. So now he has the money anyway. Does he still have the drive and desire to succeed? Well, let's hope it's not today anyway.
Also in the lineup for Atlanta United, Miguel Almiron, who was integral in Atlanta winning their lone MLS Cup in their second year of existence, 2018, under Tata Martino. He goes off to Newcastle for 6 years, 6 seasons, and really had some bright moments throughout that career. And you could see his departure and how the supporters, what they thought of him and the effort that he put in for their club. That was impressive. And now he's back here. He's 31 years old, Matty, but still producing.
He still produces. He's still a wonderful talent because he's only 31. In the modern game, 31 is not really that old. He's still got another 4 or 5 years left. Look, Maxi Morales is going to be out there today at 38. So Almiron has a similar type of stature in terms of he's not carrying a great deal of weight. I think he'll carry on playing for a number of years. The only thing that will hold back Almiron, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later, whether that's now in game, is he's an international player. So he has to deal with a lot of travelling, and he's done a lot of travelling in the last few weeks. But let's go back to the Newcastle and how
Matty calculated every mile that he's put in during the international break. And then we ran into Chris Winkler in the PR department, and it was before the lineups were released, but he told us anyway, and we kept it to ourselves. But he said, "No, Almiron's starting today, man."
Yeah, and my thing about Almiron is even when he knew he wasn't going to get really much of a look in under Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe still sent him on his way and said what a wonderful professional he was, and he would have had him round for as many years as Almiron had wanted. He wouldn't have been in the starting lineup, but he'd been coming off the bench. But he was such a wonderful person around Newcastle as a whole. He integrated himself into, the supporters' hearts and into the city. It's such a soccer city, such a football city there in the northeast, and they loved him. They loved him even when he wasn't playing. So that, to me, sometimes you find the most out about players and them as a human when they're not playing, and how do they conduct themselves. And he conducted himself fantastically well. Eddie Howe would still have him here if it wasn't for the fact that Almiron wanted to come and play more minutes and come back to Atlanta United.
So the overall series here, Matty, and Almiron is part of this, 4 wins for New York City, 2 losses, and there have been 8 ties. And the first Atlanta win was in their very first year. It was 2017 at Bobby Todd Stadium, which is the home of the Georgia Tech football team.
Not where you went to university.
That's right. But there were 44,000 plus at that game. I was on the broadcast with Tom Kolker, and it was really energetic. And you got a feel for what this team meant to Atlanta. I mean, they were into it. And Almiron in that game had a brace, and it was a 3-1 win. Jack Harrison scored the lone New York City goal. So the old blast from the past. Now, Atlanta's last win against New York City, August the 11th, 2019, a guy named Joseph Martinez had a brace, and Ebers scored for New York City in a 2-1 Atlanta win. So that was a long time ago. And, of course, a couple of playoff games in there as well. And New York City with, one playoff game, forgive me. And that was in the 2021 season when New York City won 2-0 en route to winning MLS Cup. I think I've got that right. Are you double checking me here?
No,
okay.
No. I just believe you, unfortunately. I shouldn't, but I just believe whatever comes out of your mouth. Even what you say about New Jersey.
Now, you mentioned Peter Molinari. Now, New York City, with only 8 on the bench, and they have signed from their MLS Next Pro side, or a short-term loan coming up from their 2 team, Peter Molinari. And as Matty said, in late January, he turned 16. And it's funny, when you walk past him, you see him on the charter, and it's like, they brought a kid on this flight. Yeah. No, we know his face now, but he's a very young man. Yeah. His opportunity, will it come today? We're not sure. But it brings to light, and as we close this, Matty, I think it's worth describing what we see all these short-term loans. We get all the releases from all the different players, and for the supporters in all the different teams throughout the league, it's worth knowing what this is all about. You're permitted 4 short-term loans from your 2 team for anybody under 25 years of age that's on the 2 team. And then you could only play them twice, so they could sit on a bench 4 times and be in the squad, but you could only play them twice. And that brings up Seymour Reed, who had his second bench, but participated last week. He came on for Monsef Bakrar, and now he only has 1 left. And you're going to hear about this from Pascal Jans, because I asked him about it. I was really curious. I said, well, he only has 1 more left if you need him, but he's not on the bench. It looks like he and Maximo Carrizo, who made his debut last week, are going to be with the 2 team, along with Tavon Gray, by the way, another reserve team game until he gets to 100% fitness.
Yeah, well, there's been the problem, hasn't there? You highlighted Keaton Parks, Thiago Martins. There's been a problem with players not being fit, either coming into preseason camp not fully healthy, or leaving preseason camp fully healthy. So certainly for Tavon Gray, and it seems to be muscular injuries as well, or muscular injury. I think it's much better that he remains at home, doesn't fly. We talk about travel, doesn't play on AstroTurf here, even if it's just for 15 minutes. And get some minutes. Granted, if he's playing in the 2 team and they're playing at home, it's on AstroTurf as well. So forget I said that.
All right, one final thing, Matty, is that John Herdman's name came up in the news today.
Talking about not believing anything that comes out of somebody's mouth.
The Independent Disciplinary Committee released its decision on the allegations of misconduct by John Herdman. Get this, he is... The committee determined that the appropriate sanction, and this was the drone gate.
John Herdman's so small, he could have been in the drone flying it.
Well, stop that. The appropriate sanction was a letter of admonishment and informed the parties that their decision was final and binding. Wow. So for spying on teams, which is... maybe it's been done in a lot of different circles.
Of course, it's been done before,
but it's really from a sporting standpoint, it's it's unethical.
Well, the same as anything. Don't be foolish enough to get caught. It's if you dive in the penalty area, don't win the penalty. Don't be stupid enough to get caught for diving.
Next time somebody dives and gets caught, we're going to send them a letter of admonishment,
and it will be a binding agreement.
So that's it. So John Herman, who kind of played a role in a bit of New York City activity last year as well, and earned my award of DH of the year. I think now, but it's all settled now. That and the one thing I'll always say about Herdman: Canadian women, 2 Olympics, won the bronze, 12 and 16. Canadian men to Qatar, their first World Cup since 1986. I mean, the guy can get a team to play, but
can never take that away. He was successful at his actual job in terms of creating a winning team.
So what's going to happen here? Let's just take one more look at it. That's New York City warming up to the right. They're in their white warm-up kits there, and that's Atlanta to the left. They are called the Five Stripes because somewhere within the framework of their uniform, there are 5 stripes, and they're hosting New York City FC today. We have the live commentary for you coming up in just a few minutes. It'll begin at 7:15 on the New York City FC network. It's nycfc.com/radio, even though it's not really on the radio. But I guess if you're in the car and you have that, what do you call it? CarPlay?
Yep.
Then it is on the radio, sort of. You just, you play it through the radio, perhaps. And now the lights are being turned out in our.
We've got to move. Just because we haven't moved. They
did
want
it.
sensors.
He did it. Anyway, so I'm Glenn Crooks. That's Matty Lawrence. So the commentary is coming up. We got Pascal Janssen with the pregame show presented by Ford, and then we're gonna give you our thoughts on this one. Paint the pictures. Sync our audio,
especially
with
today,
the video. And well, listen, everybody.
On that note,
thank you so much for being here, and enjoy the game, everybody. Take care.